It has been 5 months since Xenoblade Chronicles 3 has come out, and in February, 2 months from now, it will be a whole year since the game is released. And so I just want to take some time to do this video as a bit of a retrospective. How has the game been received over the past 5 months, and I'm not going to go that heavy into lore. I literally have a 3-hour live stream of me and my friend talking about this game. And so I've made videos before the game's release. I've only made a couple after, but I really think once we start getting DLC details, we're gonna start getting back into Xenoblade content. But regardless, I gotta say, I think Xenoblade 3 had an incredible release, and my evidence for this, and I feel like it also had a great reception, because in a lot of debates where people have about the Nintendo Switch and its power and if it can run certain games, I always hear people mention, of course, Breath of the Wild, but also Xenoblade. Like, I hear Xenoblade 3 brought up a whole lot by people when they talk about showing the Switch's capabilities. And I mean, I said this when the game came out, my review. This game is phenomenal. The world is alive, it's vivid, and I barely experienced any lag, right? And so having this be one of the games that is associated with Breath of the Wild in terms of showing the Switch's capabilities, I love it. I mean, I really do love it. I think it's giving Xenoblade a whole lot of recognition. I know a lot of people are starting to play this game just because they see, this is as a huge open world game on the Switch, which may surprise people. Because a lot of people talk about what the Switch can't do. And I mean, the reason why I'm mentioning this right now is because the topic came up again with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Even though I love those games, they have a lot of glitches, and people were blaming the Switch's capabilities. And even though you could say that, for me, playing Xenoblade 3 and seeing how great the Switch can handle a massive open world game with so much in it and not really lag, it's just like I think games like Xenoblade 3 help kind of like push that it's not entirely the Switch's fault. Granted, do I think Xenoblade would be better on like a PS4? Probably. I mean, I would love, like I said, as soon as we get a Switch console that can output 4K, best believe I am playing through the entire Xenoblade trilogy. I hope that's a Switch, but part of me thinks that in the next generation of the Switch, they'll release a Xenoblade Trilogy 3-pack with like maybe an expanded DLC, because Xenoblade hasn't released, even when they've done definitive editions, they've always added things. Like in Xenoblade 3DS, they added some amiibo functionality and some other things. So I think if we get a trilogy pack on the new Switch, I feel like that would be a great launch, being like, here's Xenoblade the complete trilogy. I think that would be great. But regardless, I think even though the game, I guess you could argue, could be better graphically, I think it still looks amazing. Like, it doesn't really matter. I mean, like, okay, God of War, put this next to God of War, okay, and they'd be like, oh, but God of War does this, God of War does that. It doesn't matter. I feel like the game does what it needs to do. It has a vivid world, and if you go through looking for minor details, you really got to nitpick to have to say anything bad about this game graphically, because it's just phenomenal graphically. And of course, another thing, I mentioned God of War being nominated for Game of the Year is that was great. Now, I mean, there were a couple other categories it was nominated for, which I think that specifically, I believe it was nominated for the soundtrack category. The Xenoblade soundtrack was like over 10 times greater than all the other soundtracks that were nominated. And as much as I love Xenoblade 3 soundtrack, it's phenomenal. Personally, I think Xenoblade 2 still has my favorite soundtrack. But I still think Xenoblade 3 should have won some award. But I think just being nominated for Game of the Year just shows, and it gave this game a whole lot of recognition that it deserves. I think the Xenoblade series has been great, but I think it's been slept on a little bit. But I think it's the Xenoblade 3. The difference about this game is I think it's starting to get a lot more recognition and getting a lot more people into the franchise, which is great. I've been seeing Xenoblade trend on Twitter a lot more. I've been seeing a lot of new Xenoblade fans come about, and I love it. And I think Xenoblade 3 was the game that did what it needed to do. Because, I mean, a lot of people were thinking Xenoblade 3 might not even... Honestly, I was a little skeptical when was it Taka? No, not Taka. The lead developer of Xenoblade 3, I forgot his name. When he said that you could play this as your first game, I was kind of skeptical because I'm like, dude, no way you're gonna have all this and let it be its own like thing. And they did it. Like, really, this could be your first game into the series. Now, I highly recommend you start with 1 and then go to 2. And then go to 3. I think you should just play them in order, to be honest. That's just my recommendation, because I can't imagine going from 2 to 1 just because I played 1, 2, Torna, then 3. I just think that order works the best. But regardless, just being nominated for Game of the Year gives Xenoblade a huge amount of recognition. Now, in terms of the lore and everything, I think Xenoblade 3 gave us a lot, of course, because we know this is essentially the fallout of the conduit being like removed and the after effects of losing Zanza. This is, I think, the remnants of Zanza that created the world of Xenoblade 3. And so it also, Xenoblade 3, although Xenoblade 3 connects to the first games, it leaves a whole lot open-ended for not just DLC, but for like the entire like Xenoblade 4 essentially. I think that Xenoblade 4, I think, is going to be the most different. I think it's going to be a little bit of a reset. Not a reset. I feel like there's going to be a callback to the old games, of course. But I think Xenoblade 4 has the potential to be the most different. Because I think what I can imagine is Xenoblade 4 taking place on Xenoblade 1 or 2's world far after Xenoblade 3. And then maybe Xenoblade 5 taken in like a far off the other world, right? Because we have 2 worlds right now that are going to move completely independent. And I think it'd be cool if like maybe in the future games you could explore, have an entire game dedicated to exploring one of the worlds from Xenoblade 1 and then another one for 2, and then maybe have Xenoblade 6 wrap it up again. I don't know. But I think this Xenoblade series can go in the Final Fantasy route where each game is not connected, or maybe have like 3, like maybe the next 3 Xenoblade games are going to be their own thing. And I think it leaves so much open, and there's a lot of possibilities for DLC, but you got to keep in mind, DLC on the same level of Future Connected or Torna, it's not going to be... I mean, granted, Xenoblade 3 was a lot better than I think anyone expected. I thought this game was going to be good regardless, but I think it was already better than anybody expected. So the DLC could go the same route. Imagine having an expensive DLC. I don't want to say what Monolith Soft won't do, because you can never underestimate them. But regardless, I think you got to be realistic with DLC. I don't think all the open ends will be tied up. Because we just now in Xenoblade 3 got a little bit of an idea of what happened at the end of 1 and 2. More so 2, because we know Rex had babies with Nia, and Mio is his daughter, of course. But in the actual DLC, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to cover every single thing that we want. I don't think we're going to see every single character from the first 2 Xenoblade games, which leaves open to make a whole nother Xenoblade game. Like, there is so many potential possibilities. You could do a prequel. It could be a Xenoblade prequel focusing on what happened to Zanza and that build up. Or what if they just made like, if they made a Xenoblade like anime or show, I feel like a backstory on Zanza would be like great. But regardless, thank y'all for checking this video out. I just want to do a recap of Xenoblade. It's been 5 months. And I think we're going to probably see, when there's a Switch Direct in either January or February like it normally is, I think we're going to see a little bit of I think they're going to tease the story that's coming out in December. If they don't tease it in the one that's in January, they're definitely probably going to tease it at E3, and that could be their E3 reveal. But thank y'all for coming out. More Xenoblade content is coming out in the future. I think I want to do a live stream analyzing what could happen in the DLC. But regardless, I know that once we get that DLC trailer, Xenoblade content's gonna pick back up. I'm gonna start doing them theory videos. I know y'all love the theory videos. Thank y'all for all those people who subscribed off of my Xenoblade videos. I want to give y'all a little something and let y'all know there's gonna be more coming. Get those theory videos back up once we get a little bit more teasers for the DLC. But thank y'all for checking out this video. Peace.